Jewish, and you can visit his house in Tel Aviv. It's a museum today, and they informally called the group the Stern Gang because it was led by a man named Avraham Stern. I do not believe I'm of any relation, although, as I said, that would be heckin' cool.
Well, Stern means star.
And there's a lot of, I mean, there used to be a lot of Sterns, obviously a lot fewer after the 40s because Stern is star in German. So a lot of the Sterns were German, and obviously that didn't work out great for most of us that didn't get out. My family got out of Germany. The Stern part of it got out in the 20s.
Why did they leave?
They came for economic reasons.
Yeah. My family, the Brims, left in 1845, and then they ended up opening up the store and a rabbinate, a synagogue in the Gold Country in Sutter Creek.
Oh, interesting. Well, it's because my dad's side, again, they got here. Both sides of my dad came in the 20s and 30s, but my mom's side comes from. I mean, they're also Jewish, but comes from way earlier.
Yeah.
So it's more like 1850s. It's much earlier.
And it turned out they came from Germany. Germany was supposed to be liberal. It was already doing pogroms.
Well, Europe was never a great place for all of us, but now we can turn our attention to a different past that is so much more glorious, especially because of where we are in our story.
Yep.
We are in 1 Kings chapter 4. I believe we're in chapter 4. Did I get that wrong? Where are we? Did you have it written something else?
Well, my bookmark was at 7.
Oh, then that's probably right. I probably have it. Probably, it does the thing where it goes back chapters. After I connect it to the
chapter 7.
Chapter 7 is where we're starting, and of course, it is still a glorious time. A couple chapters later, and we'll start, of course, with our blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. If you say Amen, you get full credit. And there you go. And we'll start here in chapter 7. So, and it took Solomon 13 years to build his palace until his whole palace was completed. So it's worth noting his palace is smaller than the temple, but its construction, it is smaller. The commentators say that it's smaller than the temple. But it did take longer, because he was so eager to finish the job that his father had left him in completing the temple, that he was willing to let the house be done at a more leisurely pace. And of course, what does that tell us? That the commentators are telling us that he's actually not the grandiose figure we totally imagine him to be. He's more humble, more pious than we imagine him. Now, again, this is the commentators. You could take, they're very smart rabbis. You could take their word for it, but you can also, look at the text and use your logic and think about it a little bit. That's fine too. So he built the Lebanon Forest House, right? House of the Forest of Lebanon, which is kind of like a nickname for this house. Why? Because not every house uses these fine, giant Lebanese cedars in construction. Most people couldn't afford to bring all that huge, expensive lumber. It's like today, what's the most expensive wood in the world? I don't know, but it's pretty expensive. Is it Brazilian? Is it from Africa? Is it from Australia? I don't know. But wherever it's from, it's going to be really expensive. And if I wanted to build an entire huge mansion out of it, people would say, that's very pretty and strong, I'm sure, cool, but you could have spent a third of as much with wood that we have here, right? So that's the kind of, right? It's just the finest. So because of that, it gets this nickname, and we call it this Lebanon Lebanon.
Still a forest of cedars. Cedars
still grow in Lebanon. I mean, do they have, I don't know exactly their forestry regulations and stuff. I know that the cedars still grow in Lebanon. I assume, I don't know. I think today we have like cedar, I don't think we think of as very strong wood. We generally use it just for closets and stuff, right? For its, for those properties, for smell also, cedar is in a lot of cedar wood and stuff. So, I think we more use it for other things now than we use it for construction. So I think that's more right. I think today, if you were going to construct a house, you probably wouldn't make it all of wood, first of all. And the parts that were of wood, you might use different wood, maybe even engineered wood these days that are stronger, more durable, last long. So I think technology has outpaced the cedars of Lebanon.
What always strikes me is that they didn't have the power tools and the lifts and stuff that we've got today, and how.
Well, they had saws and stuff, thankfully, and there's a lot you can do with notches and stuff like that for tensile strength. Okay, so we built it with 4 rows of cedar columns, and with hewn cedar beams above the columns. Its length was 100 cubits. Its breadth 50 cubits and its height 30 cubits. I always have to look up again. How much is a cubit?
From your elbow to
Yeah.
No, I know that, but like in what did we standardize it as? Okay, 18 inches. Yeah, 18 inches. Okay, a foot and a half. I was like, it's like 20 inches. What is it? 18 inches. Okay, so.
Influence of Samaria, that's basis of 6 or 3.
Yeah, it's not that big. It's not as big as your houses, probably, but compared to the huts and apartments most people lived in, little clay rooms and stuff, it was much grander, much more insulated, it was paneled above with cedar, right? It's totally enclosed in cedar, no moths in this palace. And with the planks that were above on the 45 columns, 15 in each row. And there were 3 rows of window frames with 3 tiers of windows facing each other. All the doorways and doorposts had square frames with 3 tiers of windows facing each other. So square frames, we weren't doing arches, right? He made the portico of columns, 50 cubits long and 30 cubits wide. The portico was in front of the columns, and there were columns with a canopy in front of them. He made the throne portico, where he was to pronounce judgment, the hall of judgment. It was paneled with cedar from floor to floor. Just from one side of the floor to the other. The house that he used as a residence in the rear courtyard, back of the portico, was of the same construction. Solomon also constructed a palace like that portico for the daughter of Pharaoh, whom he had married.
And always an injunction against back then of Jews not marrying other.
Yes.
Yes.
And
he's violating that.
He did it. There you go.
They make political alliances.
Right, exactly. He had married him because of that, and because of that, he gave her own house.
Yeah, and to show respect to Egypt and keep.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly. All these buildings, from foundation to coping and all the way out to the great courtyard, were of choice stones hewn according to measure, smooth on all sides. The foundations were huge blocks of choice stones of 10 cubits and stones of 8 cubits. So they're each about 12 to 15 feet long. And above were choice stones hewn according to measure and cedar wood. The large surrounding courtyard had 3 tiers of hewn stone and a row of cedar beams, the same as for the inner court of the house of God and for the portico of the house. Right, yeah, it's interesting how the designs are very similar. They're not the same, but they're similar between the temple and Solomon's home. Where Solomon's home is kind of in the back, there's a reception area in the front, there's the judgment area is in the middle, and his home's in the back, right? Like kind of how the Holy of Holies is in the back, The area where they do the sacrifices and stuff is in the middle, and the reception area is in the front, and with the walls around all the sides. So it's similar, not the same, but similar.
As far as we know, that house stood until the Babylonian captivity, like the same with the temple.
Yeah, as far as we know, that's the house that the kings of as far as we know, that's the house that the kings of Judah lived in since they reigned in Jerusalem. My assumption is that they ruled, they sat on David's throne. So this is the throne that the throne room Solomon built. My assumption is that they used this space until it was destroyed by the Babylonians. We can assume. Okay. King Solomon. Okay, we're moving on from that. King Solomon sent for Hiram and brought him down from Tyre. This was not the king that he'd spoken to before. This was an artisan that had the same name, right? There was a King John of England. There are a bunch of guys also named John in England. Not the same guy. So this is Hiram, not King Hiram. He was the son of a widow from the tribe of Naphtali, and his father had been a Tyrian, a coppersmith. So he's the son of an interfaith marriage. His father was from Tyre. His mother was a widow from Naphtali. He was endowed with skill, ability, and talent for executing all work in bronze. Nehoshet, yeah, bronze. And okay, because it's Nehoshet, it's also copper, but here it means bronze. He came to King Solomon and executed all his work. So this guy becomes his chief artisan, his person who makes all the fancy stuff for the house now that all the stones and wood is in place. He cast 2 columns of bronze. One column was 18 cubits high and measured 12 cubits in circumference, and similarly the other column, same thing. He made 2 capitals cast in bronze. I'm not exactly sure. It says kotorot, keter, like a crown, like 2 crowns, cast in bronze to be set upon the 2 columns. Okay, so there are crowns for the columns, and the height of each of the 2 crowns being 5 cubits. Also, nets of meshwork with festoons of chainwork for the crowns that were on top of the columns, 7 for each of the 2 crowns. He made the columns so that there were 2 rows of pomegranates encircling the top of the one network to cover the capitals that were on top of the pomegranates.
The word crowns has special significance, like Keter.
Right. Keter can. It depends what comes after that. Because, like, you could call something the crown of stupidity, right? And that would not be probably a great thing. So,
in the Zohar.
Well, Keter that's a specific Keter. That's not just any Keter. Right. And he did the same for the tops of the second crown. The crowns upon the columns of the portico were of lily design, 4 cubits high. The lily work may have been called Shushan because it was shaped in the form of the 6-petaled white lily, the Shushan Sahor, which served as a symbol of the Israelite monarchy during certain periods. So you know how that's not uncommon. Who knows another dynasty that knows themselves by flowers?
France, fleur de lis.
Okay, that's a good one. And who else? I was one specifically I was thinking of. Do the Greeks? I don't know what their throne. I don't know. The Japanese, the chrysanthemum throne. So we had the lily, I guess, the 6-petaled lily. So also the crowns upon the 2 columns extended above and next to the bulge that was beside the network. What are we doing here for the belly? Exact meaning of that, we're not sure. The protrusion is what Steinsaltz has translated it as. So there's something there that's coming out of it. There were 200 pomegranates in rows around the top of, right? Pomegranates are a symbol of this region. They grow very.
Isn't that what some suggested wasn't the apple, it was the pomegranate?
Yes, many have suggested that the apple from the story of Adam and Eve, or Adam and Chaya, was Hava rather, was a pomegranate, not an apple. Could be.
Quick question.
Yeah, yeah,
We
please.
go on for verse.
Yeah, we go on for quite a while here about this.
Why? Oh,
So you
Why?
know, now you know, they know, because they know. If they had proof, this is the best proof they can give you, right? They're like, we know the size of the house, in case you don't have it. Because there's no, where is this house today? Doesn't exist. It was torn down. No, we generally know where the city of David was. It's in Siwan, it's in East Jerusalem now. Palestinians have houses that they built over top of it, but you can go to this area. It exists. This hill where this house was exists today, but it doesn't. This house doesn't exist anymore. How do you know it existed if they say to you, and Solomon built himself a house?
So the attempt,
The same reason they give you the measurements of the ark in Genesis, the same reason they give you the measurements of the tabernacle. It's proof.
so it's history. This really did happen. And we
As
got
they
the
wish to
proof.
present it to you. Right, yeah. The part of it is, this is proof. They say, we know the exact size. If we're wrong, try and put it together. If it doesn't fit together, then clearly we're idiots. I'm willing to bet it will. By the way, they went ahead with the version for the Mishkan, the traveling tabernacle. I told you all, I've shown you pictures. I went to visit it at Park Timnah in Israel. They decided to build it based on the specifications. Turns out it worked. I'm not saying that means that Exodus is definitively history. I'm just saying the measurements fit. So you can take from that what you will. For me, it does serve as somewhat of something to help your mind logic its way to understanding here. I'm not one who believes there's a deep spiritual significance to these sections. I believe they're here so that to help you believe it, to help you understand, to help you get a picture of it, to help you put a size to this. It built a house. What does a house mean to you today? It means 2,000, maybe 3,000 square feet. It means maybe 2 levels. It means, what did a house mean to someone in 1300 in France? What did it mean to someone in 800 in Bavel? It's not enough to just say he built himself a house. Anyway. Okay, so verse 21. Hopefully we are almost there. He set up the columns at the portico of the great hall, so right at the entrance, so that everyone would be really impressed. He set up one column on the right and named it Yachin. That's fun. It means sturdy. And he set up the other one on the left and named it Boaz, which Boaz is a name that we use that comes from Bo-Oz, which means strength will come. Like Adonai Oz L'amo Yitain, God gives strength to God's people. And in this case, so we've got sturdy and strength are the names of his pillars. He named him because he's fun. He's a fun guy. No, I'm just
the step grandfather of David.
Yeah.
well, right, great grandfather, right, yeah. But
It's in the line. It was Ruth that wasn't in the line.
Right.
yeah. Although the lines measured matrilineally,
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
for them. So technically Ruth is the line and David is in it. Although when it becomes David, he becomes the one person we switch to only looking at the paternal line.
Oh,
Where where we say for David, we want the seed for future Mashiach, for the future king, we want the seed of David. We want it to go patrilineally. But for everyone else, we wanted to stay on the other side of that. Although, we'll see. Okay. Upon the top of the columns, there was a lily design Thus, the work of the columns was completed. Then he made the tank of cast metal, 10 cubits across from brim to brim, completely round. It was 5 cubits high and it measured 30 cubits in circumference. So you got a metal water tank, which is, I mean, it'll get kind of hot sometimes, I guess, and cold, but more than other things, but it won't leak, right? It's cast metal. So if the whole bottom is solid, then it won't leak, which is probably the only tank in Israel that won't leak. And it's big. It's pretty big. There were gourds below the brim, completely encircling it, 10 to a cubit, encircling the tank. The gourds were in 2 rows, cast in one piece with it. It stood upon 12 oxen, 3 facing north, west, 3 south, 3 east, all of them, all the directions, with the tank resting upon them. Their haunches were all turned inward. It was a handbreadth thick. That's thick metal. We're talking like today, like if you're gonna do that, you're like cold rolling some steel. Like if you want metal that's as thick as a hand, that's a decently thick metal anyway. And its brim was made like that of a cup, like the petals of a lily. Its capacity was 2,000 baths, which is a fun way to measure water, if not helpful. It says here the measurement of volume that's about 22 to 24 liters is a bath. So 2,000 of those. So a lot of liters. You can hold like
2 liters is a gallon, and something like that.
Almost 2.5 liters, maybe. I don't know.
That's a little more than a quart.
The molding of such a large vessel from one piece of copper is a difficult and complex activity which had to be performed by the greatest expert. Hence why they brought this guy from outside of Israel. Although they did remember to they gave Hiram Israelite ancestry so that he was kosher for the building of this, right? He's not just a Tyrian. He's not just from Tyre. He's also
Naphtalian.
Right. He's also from Naphtali, therefore he's kosher. He made the 10 laver stands of bronze. The length of each laver stand was 4 cubits, and the width 4 cubits, and the height 3 cubits. The structure of the laver stands was as follows. They had insets, and there were insets within the frames, and on the insets within the frames were lions, oxen, and cherubim. Above the frames was a stand, and both above and below the lions and the oxen were spirals of hammered metal. Crazy. Again, for this time, really intricate stuff. Each laver stand had 4 bronze wheels and 2 bronze axle trees. Its 4 legs had brackets. The brackets were under the laver, cast with spirals beyond each. Just remember when they're going to do, and any of this is covered in anything, part of also why it tells you all this stuff exists is because eventually, when Israel's not doing so good, we're going to have to start stripping stuff down for donations to other, as tribute to other countries. And so all this beautiful stuff that eventually, remember, we started with wood and stone, and then we put stuff on it, and then we put gold on it with the house of God. We're going to eventually have to take some of that gold and use it for other things. So
the first Presbyterian church is having to sell off one of their
windows.
Oh,
Too bad. It's too bad.
I heard those are beautiful.
Well,
yeah.
It's all Tiffany.
Yeah, I know.
Tiffany had originally planned 10 windows in their cells.
That's for financial reasons.
Of course, and it'll sell for a lot of money, and it's great for an organization to stay alive that way. But it's sad when you have to sell things that are very precious to you in your history, in order to do that, which some communities have to do at some point. Not usually because there are Neo-Babylonians about to kick in the door, or Assyrians or anything, but sometimes it's for financial reasons, usually today, not because of Assyrians. Assyrians are the cause of very few problems in the modern world. But in the ancient world, lots of problems. Syrians. You never know. Okay. I'm gonna go down a little bit. They're very beautiful. They're very, very super beautiful, and there are lots of palms and cherubim and lions and more bronze lavers, and they're big. But it's crazy here how much we're talking about
The
this.
lilies have so good.
So we're gonna go to verse 40. Yes, Lily. Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna go to 40 where it says it seems like we're getting to the end here. Oh, nope, we're gonna sum up again. So yeah, okay. So just read down 40, right? He made all that stuff and he finished the work. We'll go down to 46. Because all of the things that he'd made for Solomon were burnished in bronze. Um,
48.
48, 49,
Yeah.
50. Right. Right. Okay. You see here now everything gets covered in gold. You get for the house of God, everything's in gold.
Yeah, like the White House.
But also for the doors of the great hall and stuff like that, they are also covered in gold.
It's kind of like the White House.
Yeah. So I was
These
saying.
days, yeah, right. Because of course, that's how kings showed how rich they were
Yeah.
to other kings.
And
And Trump went to go see the kings of the Middle East, and they cover all their today still in the Middle East. If you want to show you're rich, you cover everything in gold. So the kings of the UAE and Qatar and Saudi Arabia all cover their stuff in gold. They have gold everything. Now, of course, Donald Trump it's not a new obsession. He's long enjoyed covering things in gold. He's famously had things covered in gold for a very long time. Including on his plane and things. So yes, he's going to cover the White House ballroom in gold, and the outdoor patio in gold, which we used to have a rose garden. I hope there's still some roses there. But they're certainly going to be gold. And it's going to show all the foreign royalty how rich our king is. Well, we have an elected king for the moment. Hopefully, he doesn't become anything more than
You can imagine realizing a lifelong dream being driven in a golden carriage in England.
Yeah.
How empty are your dreams if that's?
But he had a fun time. He's like he had a fun time. Let him have a fun time. Who cares? Like, I mean, like of all the things that are going on, like I don't care if he wants to ride in a carriage. It's the least important thing in the world to me. If it makes him happy, then cool. It didn't seem to bother the English. I mean, it bothered some of the English, but it didn't. The king went along with they did it. Like, isn't that his job to be an honorary host? Essentially, isn't that what they pay him for?
Yeah.
Isn't that what they pay the king for these days? Is to be a diplomacy tool. This is how they were going to get their trade deal signed. Was to agree to chauffeur him around in a carriage. You're not going to do it because you don't like him. That's a really dumb thing to do to your people for trade. That's a real you got to be better than that. And thankfully, the leaders of Great Britain are. And all it cost them was a ride in a carriage. If I could get $1 billion for a ride in a carriage, I'd build a carriage to drive him around.
Oh, hell yes,
But-
I go in a minute.
but since he's not asking, and I don't know how to build a carriage anyway, we're just gonna skip it. And I don't think he likes Teslas so
I
much.
think
anymore, so
another
he doesn't
reason
have
for
anything.
gold is not the Middle East, but Putin has.
Putin also likes to cover his house, but the Russians do that. Right, I was about to say the Russians, right? Their palaces were long covered. They were among the first in Europe to cover literally everything in gold. Them and the French.
Palace in Leningrad, I can't remember the name of
The Winter Palace?
Yeah, the Nazis stripped it all down, and the Russians have tried to reduplicate it because they can't find where the old.
Yeah, I know there's a couple palaces that have been either restored either since the fall of the Soviet because it's really great for tourism. To have these palaces people can and the Fabergé, but like the Soviets didn't like the Romanovs obviously, and they weren't keen to lift up the history of the czars. So
Some like him.
not the Soviets. None of the Soviets like
Soviets,
none of the communists czar. The czarists like the czar. But they lost. To be fair, there wasn't a good side for the Jews, so I don't really have a dog in that fight. Between the communists and the czarists, you might as well just let me dig my own hole.
Yeah.
Because they all want to kill
One of
me.
the charges
Or move
against
to
the
New
Jews,
York.
they're overrepresented in the communists.
Yeah, the Jews get all the charges leveled at them. None of them are fair, but all of them get leveled. Anyone wants to introduce me to Candace Owens in a dark alley, just give me the chance. Sorry, that's on the internet. Oh no. Well,
Yeah, Macron's, they're gonna have a lawsuit about the slang.
nobody watches our YouTube. They're not gonna report me.
I watched it.
You watch.
Oh, well, great.
I wasn't here.
Well, you're here anyway, so you can report me if you want. That's fine. I shouldn't say things like
Yeah, she's kind
this.
of pushing the envelope.
Yes, calling Jews dirty rats and blaming them for the deaths of people that we didn't kill is certainly one way of saying pushing the envelope. Another way of calling that is reviving medieval and Nazi anti-Semitism at the same time.
All I was familiar with was the charge against Macron's wife, that she's really a
He says that Israel and the Jews killed Charlie Kirk, that Israel and the Jews killed JFK, that Israel and the Jews did 9/11, that Israel and the Jews who else did we kill? I think we also killed RFK, even though he was killed by a Palestinian. We're according to her, we're also like World War I and stuff, like real old Nazi stuff, like real like we're like like the old Mel Gibson, all the wars that like it's bad news. I don't know how you heard about Macron. I heard about Macron's wife too, but that's like a funny thing. That's not like, I mean, I don't. Like, she's being sued, so that's up to her. But like,
was demonstrably incorrect. I don't think.
We'll see. I guess court will answer that question for her.
Well,
but it's, yeah. But yeah, we want to avoid all the Nazi anti-Semitism, and she likes it a lot. Her and Tucker Carlson, we're not fans of them. They really hate the Jews. But on verse 51 here, when all the work that King Solomon had done in the house of God was completed, Solomon brought in the sacred donations of his father David, the silver, the gold, and the vessels which he had, which he didn't use, but he had made, and deposited them in the treasury of the Beit Adonai, the house of God. Right, the temple treasury contained all the excess silver and gold that David had prepared for the construction of the temple. They were consecrated materials. They've been blessed by the priests, but they were also part of the national treasury. So they just had a separate area in the treasury for consecrated building things. So therefore, from time to time, in their hour of need, the kings of Judah would use these treasures. This was also where they would get tribute money from, if necessary, even if it was consecrated. So Solomon did that, and now what would you do next if you finished building your house of God, your big new capital with your big new palace and your big new temple?
Dedication.
Yeah, we got to consecrate. We got to dedicate it. We got to have a party. We got to have a thing. People got to come from everywhere and do a big thing. So that's what we're going to do in chapter 8. We're going to, so then in chapter 8, we start off, and Solomon convoked, he gathered, Yachel, right? Kahal means community. Yachel is like he communitied them. It's verbing it, right? He forced them to be in community. He gathered them. The word they're using here in mine is convoked. I've also got assembled is another one, but it's not the usual word for assembled. The elders of Israel, all the heads of the tribes, and the ancestral chieftains of the Israelites, before King Solomon in Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of God from the city of David, which is Zion. Why? Because the temple is on Mount Moriah, which is where the temple the Temple Mount is today. Why is it on Mount Moriah? What's important about Mount Moriah?
It's where
Akita, right? The binding of Isaac.
Yes, the Akedah happened on Mount Moriah. So this is where Abraham attempted to sacrifice his son. And on that rock is the altar that this is all based around, and that is where it's built. So the ark had been stored in the Mishkan, which was in the city of David, which is now in East Jerusalem. And if you're there, you can see if you go to Ir David today, if you go to the city of David excavation site, they have excavated the path that leads from the city of David up to Mount Moriah, that people and the bath at the bottom, where people would prepare their feet and their sacrifices for walking up this stone path to the gates of the old city, which at the time was new and didn't have walls. But still, like we have these things, but you got to go to see it. But yeah, so they brought it up this path that you can walk, and they brought the ark up from the city of David, up to this new center that's going to be where and houses will grow up around this new center of the king's house and the thing. But at the moment, most people still live over on this other hill, the city of David, which today again is Silwan, East Jerusalem, a Palestinian neighborhood, East Jerusalem. Yeah.
When we say Zion, do we mean Jerusalem? Do we mean the city of David? We don't mean Mount Moriah, or do we?
So Zion, we mean a couple of, it depends on context. It's Zion is contextual.
Okay.
Right? Because like for instance, by the rivers of Babylon,
Yes.
and there I wept when I remembered Zion.
Yeah. That's Israel and Jerusalem.
Yeah, it's kind of both, right? And we kind of don't care about the distinction, to be honest, right? When we say when we bring the Torah out for our Torah service, what do we say? There are two,
Say Torah. Out of
and then
the word of God.
From where? There's one more. No, close. Yerushalayim.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right? We say, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah dvar Adonai mirushalayim. So, right? Because out of Zion will come Torah, will come and the word of God from Jerusalem. So which is Zion? Is Zion Jerusalem? Is that redundant? I think it is Jerusalem, but it's also not. It's a little contextual. It is Jerusalem. It is Mount Moriah. It's like one of our radiation words, like kadosh, right? Like holiness, kedusha. This idea that it exists here and it exists there, and sometimes it exists more or less in different amounts. It can be holy, that can be holy, and this can be holy, but this can be kedusha less than that can be kedusha, right? So this is Zion, more and less Zion, but they're both Zion. I don't think they're going to give me any different.
Contextual.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's mostly Jerusalem, but it's also Israel.
Okay.
But it's mostly Jerusalem, I would say. I don't think it's specifically Mount Moriah in any way that's like only there, but I think it's
the nation say we will all go up to Zion and hear the word from
probably Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Because again, right, where does the word of God come from? Udavar Adonai Yerushalayim, right? So
Okay.
So there it probably means Jerusalem. In most places it probably means Jerusalem. In some places it doesn't. How about that as a kind of rule? About 80% of the time it means Jerusalem, but about 20% of the time it just generally refers to the land of Israel.
Job security for
Sometimes it means Sometimes it means the land of Israel, but most of the time it means Jerusalem.
What is Zionism?
Zionism means the belief that the Jewish people should have a modern nation state, should have a land of their own in some part of our ancestral homeland.
So why does some of the Orthodox question that viewpoint?
Some of the Haredim question the religious. They question Zionism because Zionism, they believe, breaks one of the three odes. There were odes that, should I just bring these up? Because I spelled oats wrong. Can you believe that? Right. So Solomon of blessed memory foresaw with divine inspiration that the prolonged duration of the exile would incite some of our people to seek to terminate it before the proper time. So this idea was that that Solomon had foreseen that we would be exiled and it would last a long time and people would get sick of it and they'd want to end the exile early before God had decided it should be so.
Before the proper time.
Right, which is decided by God. And as a consequence, they would perish or meet with disaster. So the idea being, if you break this oath, then lots of people die. Therefore, he warned them to desist from it and adjured them, as we read, in Song of Songs with different things. The three most importantly here, is that one should not go up to the land of Israel en masse, that a bunch of Jews a million Jews shouldn't move to Israel all at once, that was one of the oaths, or by force. Two was that God told Israel not to rebel against the nations of the world. And the third oath was that the world said that the nations of the world would not oppress Israel too much.
That's an interesting qualifier.
And that's exactly where we get to. This is where we get to it. So you ask about this. The Haredim believe that Zionism in its modern form constitutes rebelling against the nations of the world and going back, taking by force the land of Israel, ending exile early before God's mandated time. Hence why they oppose Zionism. They believe God will bring them back when Mashiach comes. Yeah, so until Messiah comes, it's not the time. Meanwhile, there's obviously many religious Zionists. There are, and Hardal communities, Haredi religious communities. They argue primarily, I believe, and I shouldn't speak for them probably, but they believe, I think, that the third oath was broken. The third oath that the nations of the world had to agree when God said that the nations of the world wouldn't oppress the Jews too much, that between the 1,000 years of medieval anti-Semitism leading up to the Holocaust, and with the Holocaust, the nations of the world had broken the agreement that the Jews wouldn't go back to Israel so long as they weren't oppressed too much. And with that, the oaths were no longer valid. And with that, there's no religious precedent to forbid the Jews from returning to Israel en masse. Hence why they'll live in Israel, and and hence why some of them will fight for the state and are supportive of it.
The Declaration 1948 wasn't enough of the nations agreeing. I mean, the United Nations agreed to it.
What does that matter to religious Jews? I'm just curious.
Okay, well,
they don't care what the UN says.
okay.
The nations can't agree to, but no. The nations, let me be clear. The nations have no say in any of this. They had a job to do. There were 3 rules God gave, according to Maimonides in these oaths. The Jews wouldn't go back in force or en masse to Israel. That the Jews wouldn't rebel against the nations of the world. We wouldn't seek to take over their countries either. And that the nations of the world wouldn't oppress us too badly. But when they broke that third rule, we're saying that's the whole thing is a contract. If they break the third one, then then the first 2 are null and void. So we're done. We're good. Now we have other rules that prevent us from doing the second one. Everyone should be very happy, right? We have rules, other Jewish rules that prevent us from taking over countries that we're guests in, like Dinah de Malchut, that the law of the land supersedes Jewish religious law, so that we will be good subjects in any land that we live in.
Right.
So that they can know that we won't violate their laws, we won't seek to subvert them, because their law supersedes ours. Which should have worked, I would have thought, but didn't in most places. Most of them didn't care, but didn't believe us. But we did make that a rule. But the first one now is totally, we got nothing stopping us from going back to Israel, and many Jews did, including Haredim. As we know, they make up nearly 20% of the state now.
Because they have bigger families usually.
Yep. And none of them ever die in war. That's not true. I
Well,
shouldn't
they
say that.
changed that rule.
Well, they changed the rule. Most of them still dodge the draft, though. But many do fight. There are some, I don't want to say many, there are Haredim who fight now, and they should be applauded and rewarded and allowed to continue their way of life. As I say, I don't think anyone who wants Haredim drafted into the military are really, the Haredim claim that we say we want it because we want them to assimilate, to stop being Haredi. I don't want that. I think most Israelis, that's not the reason they want them to fight. They want them to fight because Israel has a major manpower shortage, including needing over 7,000 combat soldiers at this moment. And there are 30,000 Haredim who've been drafted who won't show up. So that gives you the whole numbers right there. I mean,
I presume the government is not prosecuting those that don't show
the government is partially Haredi, so it's they're and in fact their leaders in government tell their kids don't go to the army.
up.
So, and just the other day they tell them die rather than go to the army. They hold up the young people hold up signs at their protests when they block roads and stuff saying we'll die before we enlist. And somebody the other day, they came to his apartment to arrest him and he jumped out the window. Some of these groups think that the Israeli officials are essentially the Nazis. They're coming to get them. They're coming to remove them from Torah study. They're coming to destroy Torah study. They're coming to destroy the Torah. They're coming to destroy the Jews. And their imagery for these people matches that very much. These are very much extremists, and many Jews of all religious identities, including some Haredim, are not in favor of it. But it exists, and it's Gesundheit. But it exists anyway. I've said enough, and I love our Haredi brothers and sisters. I wish we all got along a lot better than we do. Although there are reasons why they don't like us, and there's reasons why we don't like them. So I hope we just don't hate each other. That's all. Because we know where Sinat Hinam leads.
Nazi analogy, when I visited the Holocaust Museum in the early 90s, you pull your name out of the jar, and I was allegedly a Jehovah's Witness, and I wouldn't fight. So that's why they were sent to concentration camps. So it's kind of a
Jehovah's Witnesses also got sent to concentration camps often, and political opponents and various sexual minorities and various ethnic minorities. I mean, there's lots of people who got sent to concentration camps, but most of them didn't get sent as a rule in the same way. And it was hard, some of them
But I think they were sent because they wouldn't fight.
I'm sure. I mean, yeah, if you wouldn't fight, I'm sure that was a problem since they needed everybody to fight. Okay, we've got and so they are in Zion now. We're in verse 2. We made it all the way to 8:2.
8:2. Okay.
Okay. The entire body of Israel gathered before King Solomon at Sukkot. In the month of Etanim, that is the 7th month, known nowadays by its Babylonian name, Tishrei. We all know Tishrei because it's coming up. But yeah, now we call it by the Babylonian name, Tishrei. In Israel, it was called Eitnaim. Because it says for mighty ones, because the forefathers of the nation who were spiritually mighty were born in this month. In addition, this month has many festivals, along with their many commandments. There's also a time when agricultural produce, which is essential for physical health and vigor, is gathered from the field. So that's why it's called the Mighty Ones month. When all the elders of Israel had come and So again, this is right after the day of right after all the big stuff. This is the time to launch a thing. I think back actually to 2023. Israel was going to open their brand new National Library of Israel, which is a beautiful building I've had the chance to see. It was supposed to open just after Sukkot, just after Simchat Torah, at the end of the Chagim, on October 7th, 2023. Which of course, or October 8th, actually, 2023. It didn't happen because October 7th happened, but that's a good time. Right after the holidays is a good time for these things. And so that's what they're doing here. He's like, okay, we'll do these holidays, and then we'll do this during the Feast of Sukkot, and Sukkot is a pilgrimage festival. Everyone's got to go to Jerusalem during the pilgrimage festivals, and this will be the first one of the new year. So that's why they come for this. When all the elders of Israel had come, the priests lifted the ark and carried up the ark of God. Then the priests and the Levites brought the tent of meeting and all the holy vessels that were in the tent. So they packed it all up. That Mishkan had served them for so long. And they're just packing it. It's time to pack it up. We got a house now. We'll put it away inside the house, right? Meanwhile, King Solomon and the whole community of Israel, who were assembled with him before the ark, were sacrificing sheep and oxen in such abundance that they could not be numbered or counted. Sacrifices were offered along the procession in honor of the ascent of the ark, right? They really were making a big, big show. The priests brought the ark of God's covenant to its place underneath the wings of the cherubim in the shrine of the house of the temple in the Holy of Holies. That's funny. Since the cherubim that Solomon had fashioned were much larger than the ones Moses had to make for the Mishkan, they were placed on the floor of the sanctuary rather than atop the ark.
No.
Because these were big, right? It was like a ball. It was like they had a tent. They built a big building that was like a big version of the tent. So they're like, okay, it's too big now. They're big and stuff. We'll just put them on the floor. For the cherubim had their wings spread out over the place of the ark, so that the cherubim shielded the ark and its poles from above. The poles projected so that the ends of the poles were visible in the sanctuary in front of the shrine, but they could not be seen outside, and there they remain to this day. Obviously, the Torah was written and therefore is unchanging, so we can't update it and say, update, actually not so much at this moment. Hopefully soon, Bezrat Hashem, right? We pray, B'mehera b'yameinu, speedily in our days, that it be rebuilt. I actually thought, again, I'm going to say more things since I've already gotten us demonetized. Not that we're monetized on YouTube, but I've said all kinds of bad things already today. I'll just say, I thought during Iran's latest attack on Israel, I thought they were going to hit the Dome of the Rock and blow it up, which would have then allowed Israel to would have meant there was nothing there. Maybe we could build something. I don't know, but I thought maybe they were going to blow it up because we can never blow it up. We know we can never blow it up. But if they blew it up, then it wouldn't be our fault. We didn't blow it up. It's not our fault, right?
Isn't the Dome of the Rock set holy to them?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Which is why we can't blow it up, and we would never do it.
Why would the Iranians want to do it then?
No, they're just bad at aiming. I was
Oh,
just
okay. Okay. I got
they
you.
missed most of what they aimed at, even the military sites.
Well, the basis being from London, when the Nazis were bombing London, St. Paul's Cathedral, all around it was pretty much, a lot of it was destroyed, but I wonder if that was intentionally tried to.
You couldn't guide those bombs, my guy. It's just luck. And
And
it was dark. They couldn't see. They didn't have they didn't have GPS. They don't know where it is.
I'm suggesting it was somewhat.
it's just lucky.
It was somewhat, yeah.
Divine intervention, you
Miracle,
might suggest
yeah,
it is, but which you can suggest. Deus ex machina is more what I think of it as. Kind of like it just happened to be. But yeah, no, maybe I don't know, but I don't think the Germans intentionally spared it. You couldn't name those
No,
glide bombs at night. From no shot that they would have known what they were
I'm
aiming at.
opinion that Hitler never really wanted to fight England.
Yeah, I think you're wrong about that. Again,
He
he
wanted-
didn't want to fight so long as he could subjugate them by winning without fighting them. Yes, I agree with you. I too much prefer battles that I can win without having to fight them, as opposed to battles I have to fight and win with force.
Well, as we well know, there was a lot of sympathy in America and Britain that Hitler was not.
Thank God, not enough.
Yes.
Okay, we've got where are we? We got Poles. And they remain there. That's cool. Verse 9. There was nothing inside the ark but the two tablets of stone that Moses placed there at Horeb. Right? This is good. This is connection between kings, which is many books since we last met Moses. And it's been many years since we last met Moses, right? We've had Joshua and his successors, we had the judges, we had Saul, and we had plenty of people. Anyway, Moses placed them there when God made a covenant with the Israelites after their departure from the land of Egypt. When the priests came out of the sanctuary, for the cloud had filled the house of God. The cloud that symbolized the Shekhinah is there with them, as it was in the wilderness. And the priests were not able to remain and perform the service because of the cloud, for the presence of the Eternal filled the house of God.
Isn't there some symbolism of the cloud in Exodus when they're going through?
Yes, they follow during the day, they follow a pillar of cloud, a pillar of smoke, really.
Okay.
But yeah, a pillar of cloud, essentially. It's the same, smoke and cloud is kind of the same. It looks the same, so they kind of use the same word. But it's like a pillar of cloud during the day and a pillar of fire at night that they follow when they're exiting Egypt, when they're in the wilderness.
And Shekinah is in both those.
Well, it's God, it's a divine thing. It's not, God's not in it. It's just God made it. It serves them. God, though, dwells as a cloud in the tent when God is meeting with Moses and stuff and presiding over things. And when God is in the tent, nobody can be there except for Moses. But there's no Moses today, so it means all the priests had to get out. They're like, ah. In verse 11, right? He says, and the priests were not able to, it says, velo yachlu hakohanim la'amod. It says l'sharet, right? And the priests were not able to stand to serve, to do service. So they had to leave. The cloud was there, and they're like, oh, we can't be here. The God's here. It's God's using this. We got to get out of here. And then Solomon's going to give a speech, right? What happens at when we do big unveilings of events of buildings and stuff? He's got to give a speech, and in this case, he's going to do a poem, a piyut, in a way. He's going to do a shir. They like to call in the Tanakh. They like to call it a shir, a song, or a poem. Shir also means poem, but we would probably use piyut for poem today and shir for song. In modern Israel, anyway, shir is more song than poem. Anyway, so Solomon is going to Azamar Shlomo. So what? Adonai Amar Lishkon Ba'arafel. God has chosen to abide in a thick cloud. I have now built for you a stately house, a place where you may dwell forever. Then, with the whole congregation of Israel standing, the king faced about and blessed the whole assembly of it, the whole congregation of Israel. He said, praised be the Eternal, the God of Israel, who has fulfilled with deeds the promise made to my father David. For God said, ever since I brought my people Israel out of Egypt, I have not chosen a city among all the tribes of Israel for building a house where my name might abide, but I have chosen David to rule my people Israel. Now my father David had intended to build a house for the name of the Eternal One, the God of Israel. But God said to my father David, as regards your intention to build a house for my name, you did right to have that intention. That's a nice way of putting it, right? It was good that it was in your heart, is what he says. However, you shall not build the house yourself. Instead, your son, the issue of your loins, shall build the house for my name. What's missing here? from Shlomo's description to the people and all the leadership of Israel about what's happening here. He's not lying.
But he's not saying that God said you got too much blood on your
Yeah,
hands.
right, left the book.
Yeah, he left all the reasoning out. He just says, yes, it's good that you wanted to, but your son will do it. Was there a reason?
They didn't say because.
Never decided to share that with everybody, right? Just said, it just happens to be that your son will do it. And look, it's me, I'm the son, and I did it. David's great, I'm great, God is great, and nobody has to talk about the uncomfortableness
Right.
of David and all his bloodshedding.
But didn't they already know?
Sure, they knew, and they probably didn't care. But if God had said David is bad, can't do something because of a fault, then David is therefore flawed in a way that people didn't see him as flawed. If God says it's a flaw, then suddenly the people might think it's a flaw.
Right.
And if God thinks his dad is flawed, they might think he's flawed.
And then Solomon was his authority.
And you never know who might be coming up, because we have the book as it's written. But we could have had another book after this one that explains how, just like the evil Saulites, the Davidic dynasty was also evil. So now a new group of people can, right? So like, it didn't work out that way, but it could have. So he decided to skip all the unpleasantness and just not say anything about it. And also, to be fair, Solomon reigned in more peaceful times, right?
Mhm.
He has there's the old chart thing, the whole hard times create tough men create good times, times create soft men create hard times. That's very popular on the internet, and this is the good times that the hard men like David created, and they created good times, and Solomon is ruling in the good times. And so there's no need to mention the unpleasantness of the previous times, just their glory, because everyone remembers the glory. They don't need to remember all the bloodshed, right? And to be fair, we know all about that in this country. We did that here. It was fine. But like in this country, like in World War II, after about 20 years, maybe 30 years, I wasn't alive for the first 30, 40 years after the war. But for the first 30, 40 years, maybe. But after that, we talked a lot less about the battles and the this, and more just about, wasn't it so great that we beat the Nazis? Wasn't it so great that we ushered in freedom for Europe and the world and beat the Japanese and ushered in the UN and did introduced the Western diplomatic system, and there's not as many wars. Like that became more of our narrative around World War II, as opposed to, look how tough we were and we fought these guys and we beat them, which might have been more of the narrative in the immediate aftermath of the war. That's kind of what we're seeing here, is as time passes, they'd rather just focus on the effect, which is they are big and powerful and strong and rich, and isn't that great, rather than how they got there.
Sacrifice.
They're doing lots of sacrifice.
No, I'm talking about the sacrifice, how they got to,
Oh,
World
well,
War II, the people who died.
yeah, I mean, and again, we remember that too. We still had, ceremonies and things. But it's how the culture thinks about it is what I'm saying.
I've sure forgotten about the sacrifice.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry.
I get reminded every once in a while how I would have reacted if I.
Well, I think that's something we all suffer, have. So his speech continues. He says, right, and God fulfilled the promise that was made. I have succeeded my father David and have ascended the throne of Israel as God promised. I have built the house for the name of the Eternal One, the God of Israel. And I have set a place there for the ark containing the covenant that God made with our ancestors upon bringing them out from the land of Egypt. All right, we still got, that plays a big role in the public recognition of this. Coming out of the land of Egypt, still very important. I wonder if his Egyptian wife is standing next to him when he says this, right? Remember that we came out of Egypt. And she's like, I also came out of Egypt, just like way more recently. Like I just got here a week ago. No, I'm Egyptian. No. She's like real Egyptian, not like Greek Egyptian, like Cleopatra. She's like real Egyptian. Or the modern Egyptians that are Arab and not Egyptian. I mean, like old ethnic Hyksos Egyptian. Anyway, sorry. Um, um, uh, then Solomon stood before the altar of God in the presence of the whole community of Israel. He spread the palms of his hands towards heaven. It can be assumed that this prayer was heard by the audience as well. It says this is one of the longest, most complex, and comprehensive prayers in the entire Bible. In addition to its many requests, bakashot, it includes a broad vision for the nature of the temple. So here's Solomon's invocation. He says, O eternal God of Israel, in the heavens above and on the earth below, there is no God like you. Ein kamocha Elohim bashamayim mimal. Who keep your gracious covenant with your servants when they walk before you in wholehearted devotion. You who have kept the promises you made to your servant, my father David, fulfilling with deeds the promise you made, as is now the case. Kayom hazeh, as it is this day, is what it says literally. And now, O eternal God of Israel, keep the further promise that you made to your servant, my father David. Remember from Talmud, if anyone comes to our Talmud class, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's important. Remember, we learned in the Talmud that you bless through the name of others if you want to truly be blessed. If you bless in the name of yourself, God rejects it. It's bad. Yeah. But if you bless it on your parents' or grandparents' memory in their honor, then God's really happy about it, likes that better. Mm-hmm. So he's saying it here. Keep further the promise, not that you made to me. You don't owe anything to me. Break all your promises to me. That's what he's saying. But to my father, who is your servant, in his honor, please don't break, right? And God goes, ooh, I like that. That's a nice formulation. That's a really...
Score one.
Right. I mean, it's the difference between boiling a hot dog and cooking it correct. No, I'm sorry. Like the difference. It's like there's a difference between like chicken's better. Boiling chicken and like roasting it. One tastes better, right? Like one of these is more God finds more pleasing, and it's the second one.
Well, one of the great commandments: honor your mother and father.
Yes, it certainly fulfills that. Absolutely.
Shows some humility.
Yes, it shows humility, and that's why God likes it so much. So in honor of my father, David, this is the promise that God made to David, your line on the throne of Israel shall never end. If only your descendants will look to their way and walk before me as you have walked before me. So again, once again, we do see that there can be they say it's eternal, but there is a very clear condition in there. So, now therefore, O God of Israel, let the promise that you made to your servant, my father David, be fulfilled or confirmed. But will God really dwell on earth? Even the heavens to their uttermost reaches cannot contain you. How much less so this house that I have built? Yet turn, my eternal God, to the prayer and supplication of your servants, and hear the cry and prayer that your servant offers before you this day. May your eyes be open day and night towards this temple, toward the place of which you have said, my name shall abide there. May you heed the prayers that your servant will offer toward this place. And when you hear the supplications that your servant and your people Israel offer toward this place, give heed in your heavenly abode. Give heed and pardon. Whenever one person commits an offense against another, and the latter utters an imprecation to bring a curse upon the former, and comes with that imprecation before your altar in this house, hear in heaven, hear it, and take action to judge your servants, condemning the one who is in the wrong and bringing down the punishment of their conduct on their head, while vindicating the other who is in the right by rewarding them according to their righteousness. This is how the temple will be the source of address for justice in the world. People will be able to come and work out their, without cursing each other. They'll do their cursing in there and they'll be like, well, it's up to God, right? Anyway, that's something there. That's one of the uses of the temple. Should your people Israel be routed by an enemy because they have sinned against you, and then turn back to you and acknowledge your name, and they offer prayer and supplication to you in this temple, oh, hear in heaven and pardon the sin of your people Israel, and restore them to the land that you gave to their ancestors. Should the heavens be shut up and there be no rain because they have sinned against you, and then they pray toward this place and acknowledge your name and pray and repent of their sins, when you answer them, oh, hear in heaven and pardon the sin of your servants, your people Israel, after you have shown them the proper way in which they are to walk, and send down rain upon the land that you gave to your people as their heritage. So too if there's famine in the land, for this also, if there is pestilence, blight, mildew, locusts, or caterpillars. We know that hungry caterpillars from that book will eat all kinds of nonsense. The very hungry caterpillar is listed here as a plague, just as you want. No, sorry, I'm being too much.
So they could easily eat all the.
They could eat all the fruit, right? Yeah. Right. In any of the settlements or if any enemy oppresses them in any of the settlements of the land, in any plague, and in any disease, in any prayer or supplication offered by any person among all your people Israel, each of whom knows their own affliction, when they spread their palms toward this house. Oh, here, because we don't have exactly rote prayer. All prayer at this time is spontaneous. We don't have liturgy at this time. So that's why they say when they raise their hands toward this, you still turn towards the temple and prayed if you were going to pray, but we didn't have liturgy. There was it wasn't Shema Yisrael. It wasn't the set bakashot and things. You would just pray and say, God, I'm so sorry. It was spontaneous prayer. We did it then. We don't do it so much now. We don't do it as much today. Hear in your heavenly abode and pardon and take action. Render to that individual according to their ways as you know their heart to be, for you alone know every human heart. Thus may your people revere you all the days that they live on the land that you gave to our ancestors. Or if a foreigner who is not of your people Israel, comes from a distant land for the sake of your name, for they shall hear about your great name and your mighty hand and your outstretched arm, and thus comes to pray towards this house. This is like a conversion, right? They're not calling it that, but essentially he's talking about people who convert. Oh, hear in your heavenly abode and grant all that the foreigner asks you for. So grant that convert too, but also the prayer of Gentiles, right? So here in your heavenly, grant all that the foreigner asks you for. Thus, all the peoples of the earth will know your name and revere you, as does your people Israel. And they will recognize that your name is attached to this house that I have built. So this is also a request specifically for God in order to fulfill what will one day be the words of the prophet Isaiah, both that my house shall be called my temple should be called a house of prayer for all peoples, and that as we say in Aleinu, Bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shmo echad, that on the day of redemption, my name will be one and will be blessed by all as one. In order for that to happen, the temple has to be efficacious for them. So never before has God granted the prayers of Gentiles, but now God will also grant the prayers of Gentiles if they believe in God, in our God. What is this? I almost don't want this on YouTube. What does this set the stage for in some ways? I'll tell you, because it doesn't happen until like 1960.
Oh, Vatican II?
In a way, I'm not quite talking about Vatican II. What I'm talking about is ecumenical relations between Jews and Christians. What this section allows for is for once Christians were able to come to the idea that I think it's called, and again, there's argument about on the internet about this, dispensationalism. I'm not a Christian, so I don't really know. The idea that Jews can also have their own covenant with God that is not invalidated by Christianity. I'm not sure if that's what dispensationalism is, but there is an idea that many, especially evangelical Protestants today, hold to, that the Jews and Vatican II in some ways makes this factual for Catholics, even if not in exact terms, that the Jews have their own special covenant and therefore are not invalidated by the coming of Jesus, but that the coming of Jesus, just as they would put it, grafts Gentiles onto the tree. That it just allows Gentiles to get within the framework of Christianity to get the best ending of life, heaven or whatever you want to call it. We don't really call it heaven, but whatever you call the best ending, it allows them to get it as well, Christians as well as Jews. That allows us to have good relations. If they're not supplanting us and we're not saying you're all heretics, then we can live with each other. And we can say, you believing in God as a Trinity or whatever, you believing in God is you doing this. They have recognized that your name is attached to this house and they believe in you, which gets them the stamp. They get the credit, right? Because they now believe in the one God. How they believe in the God isn't necessarily relevant. They believe in the one God, so they get the stamp now. They're monotheists. Even if they do all the other stuff, they don't have to be Jews. It was never required that they be Jews. They were always Gentiles. The Jewish Christians is actually a different thing. The Jewish Christians are meaning, unfortunately. They're heretics. But the Gentile Christians aren't. They by becoming monotheists and not pagans, are brought into getting a stamp. They're not brought into our covenant. They are brought into this blessing, essentially. They are given a visa.
Who are the Jewish Christians?
The early Paul, the people who left Judaism to follow someone who they proclaim to be God. That whether or not Jesus proclaimed himself God, if you proclaim a person as God, it makes you a heretic in Judaism. That's a heretical belief. We don't believe a person can be co-equal with God. It's inherent to us being flawed in a way God isn't. If God can't be flawed in Judaism, so if God shares space with a human being, God will be tainted by all of that in a way that it's not fathomable in Judaism. That's part of what breaks it for us. Is there's no framework in Judaism for that. It doesn't exist. So to get there, you have to break the framework. Breaking the framework is called being.
So when
We don't have to call you heretic is a bad word. I understand. We also don't burn. We don't necessarily kill heretics. We do
when you say
cut them
before
off.
Abraham was I am, that's heresy, of course. Yeah.
Not necessarily. Again, if what I'm going to say is if you're talking about a teaching you're presenting or something, you might be able to get away with you might not be saying you're divine in some way or God. So I just want to clarify the official teaching of mainstream Jews today is that Christianity is not idolatry or a heresy of Judaism.
What is the official regarding Islam? Because they don't have. I mean, they believe in one God.
The official ruling for Islam is the same.
All right. Well, it should be because
is that they also get the stamp that's mentioned here
because
they're officially monotheists. As far as we're concerned, they are monotheists, and therefore they get.
All right.
We just like with the Jesus thing, and with maybe he did, maybe he didn't. It's not our religion. It's not up to us. I'm not interested in making Christian interpretations. I don't have any basis to do so. I'm not a Christian theologian. I've never read any of the Christian theologians. I'm not even sure I've read most of the Christian books that aren't ours. I think I made a joke the other day that I've read about 60% of the Christian canon, but only because those are our books. I don't, I never read, I think I read Romans. I don't think I read most. I think I read Matthew, but I didn't read any of the others. I don't even know. I know one of them is John. I can't even name the other two.
This is powerful.
I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's not my thing.
Sure.
Render to each man according to his ways, as you know his heart to be, for you
Yeah.
alone. I love that. I think that's really powerful in all that you're saying.
Right. I mean, we're all different. It's kind of the idea that when we say God made humanity, but B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God, we say there's a midrash that how can that be that if God has, first of all, God is perfect. How can but also Chris and I are not the same. Chris has moles. I also have, okay, we're pretty much the same. I'll be more obvious. Darcella and I are not the same. Our skin color isn't the same. Our gender isn't the same. We're not the same. But we're still both made in the image of God. How is that possible? The rabbis asked. And the rabbi said, because God, unlike any other human, if a human makes